Hey guys, how you doing? So this is a short tutorial I thought I'd give you, talking about using ambient noise and noise sound sources in your mixes, which I've talked about before, and I really love the way this sounds, and I think it adds a richness and real beauty to your mixes, and also helps to kind of break down the barrier of perfection a little bit and make something sound more organic. And there's lots of different ways to do this. So let me go ahead and get started. Actually, before this, I need to sync up my audio and video. So let me do this real quick. Perfect. Okay. So the first thing is I've just created this little chord progression, which is really not anything, but let's listen to it. Okay, so you can hear it's it's kind of nice, atmospheric, a little bit detuned as well, kind of interesting. So one of the easiest ways of doing this is to just start using audio files. So you can go to freesound.org, or you can create your own. I have actually created a folder that I use this all the time with. So if I go to my music folder here, I have under samples, I have this custom folder, and basically what this is it's all kinds of stuff that I've recorded, or some stuff that I've stolen from a DAW. Actually, I think a bunch of these, I wanted to use some of these sounds that come from Alchemy in Ableton, so I stole them as audio files and I used them in Alchemy. So, but this is all kinds of kind of atmospheric recordings of various kinds. Let me just play through some of them. So this is actually me playing in my barn, rubbing on some metal with an anvil that I have. And then there's a bunch of these noises. These are from Alchemy, actually. So all of those are from Alchemy, and then these are actually from the BBC sound effects library, and they are recordings of trains. So again, kind of a dark, a brown noise sound, like something really soft. Here's a fan, fire. Here's some frogs that I recorded right outside my house in the backwoods. Really cool sound. They were being very shy. I had to wait 30 minutes for them to finally start making those sounds again. I just sat on a path waiting. So, and then I have a couple here of owls that I captured also behind my house. So those are just kind of interesting sounds. I don't know if I'd ever use those, but I like them. Here's some other. Anyway, so it just goes on and on. There's just all kinds of stuff in here. Ocean. Here's peepers, your classic peepers. Right? And then, we get into other things. Here's another train. These last two are actually also from Alchemy, I believe, and they are vinyl emulators, right? Which is a very common effect we use in audio. This one's a little bit loud and noisy, so I have a version of it high pass filtered. Okay. So, and that just kind of rounds out the sound a little bit. But if I take my original recording here and I just drop one of these on, let's use the frogs, in fact. And, another thing that I tend to do with this is kind of put a nice reverb on it. Although it already is pretty reverberous, but it just gives it some more warmth, some significant decay. Let's listen to this. So it's kind of just warms up the sound a little bit. Another cool thing to do is to loop the sound within a certain range. So maybe I might loop a single bar and just use this over and over so that we hear the repetition of sounds. So anyways, just kind of a really nice pad to change, to kind of make this more interesting and just to warm it up. Let's try, I don't know. Some of these are really intense. Let's try the fire. This one's gonna need probably to be turned down. So another really cool thing you can do is this. I'm gonna reduce this down. Let me zoom in here so it's exactly for one measure. And come on, one measure. And then I'm gonna use the fade tool to kind of fade in a little bit, but then fade out significantly like this. So now when I duplicate this, it'll kind of have this interesting sound where it sounds like it's restarting on every bar, which is a cool effect as well. Trying to just copy these. So listen to how this sounds. So really cool effect, and I can also do something too where I add another EQ and do some sort of filter sweep with this, which can be really interesting as well. So let me just add a peak in here, and then I'm going to turn on automation, turn on touch, and then this peak is here. It's this one. So now that it's selected, I'm just going to go in here. This might take a little finagling to make it sound good. But basically, I just want to have my peak swell over time, right? So it's kind of a cool sound. It might, if we wanted to do it more dramatic, we could lift this even higher. So it gives that beautiful sense of progression across the sound, right? So another classic one, of course, is just vinyl emulation. So let me grab this one. And this one is really cool because, of course, it has that specific sound of sounding like a skipping record if you take the sound and loop it, right? So if I grab, oh, come on. If I grab just a single bar, I don't know why I'm not using these. Doing too much Ableton lately. So if I duplicate this now, it's going to ask me if I want to do that every time. Don't. So, and this will give a really cool, of course, vinyl emulation sound where it sounds like a record is skipping, yeah, which I think is really cool. Let's move this up to here too. This is a little intense, right? I mean, it's a little too loud if you ask me. I'm going to turn this down. I'm also going to kind of squash this a little bit, take out some of the really high end. Oh, see what's happening? I didn't turn touch off, right? So now it's writing data. Let's do that again. Just turn this down. So anyways, really cool effect. And you can do this in so many different ways. But this is kind of the simplest way, right? You just make a track that is actually granulator or noise in some way, and then you use it, all right? So the reason I mentioned the granulator too, because this is also another really great way of creating noise. I will share with all of you my granular synthesizer again. But as you might remember, granular synthesis allows you to kind of make a pad, or to make a you know, to make a like a long sound out of something short, right? So you take little tiny sounds of and kind of blend them together, and that allows you to create kind of a pad mix. Let me see if I can actually get this to work. Well, I know I can get it to work, but what am I doing? Let me output to Soundflower, because Soundflower right now is recording all the audio from the computer. So if I wanted to take, for instance, this anvil sound, you know, this has some distinctive moments in it, and maybe I grab this one here. I make the grain length really long and the rate fairly fast, and let's hear what we get. So I've taken a single moment from this. Maybe I grab all this. So you can hear how I could also make something in here. Maybe I actually do this and then turn the pitch. So anyways, you can just go to town on this thing, try and making it create pads and create sounds for you that are pretty dynamic. Can be really beautiful. So let's also look though in the noise generators in Logic, all right, because there are quite a couple of them at least. One of them, of course, is using ES2. So let me pull up ES2. Let's grab ES2 here. So we've talked about this before with filter sweeping, right? But we can also use ES2 to generate noise like this. So if I go down here to noise, I'm going to turn off 1 and 2. I'm going to go down here to noise. And now, you know, when I play the keyboard, I'm going to hear an intense white noise sound, right? But I could do all sorts of stuff with this. I could sidechain compress it. I could put on some cool EQing effects. I could really isolate this sound in a very narrow range, right? And kind of generate, it sounds like radio noise almost, yeah? So this is another way of kind of using this sound, or using a sound like this, is just generating it with the synthesizer. ES2 is a great source because of that noise generator, okay? Another noise generator that we have is in Alchemy. So I'm going to pull up Alchemy. Here's my Alchemy synth, right? Let me turn off let me mute this for now, my vinyl generator. So if we pull up Alchemy, this is just a preset that I found, a random preset, okay? So I can do all kinds of stuff here. First of all, one of the coolest things you can do is actually add the audio from a recording. So you can see if I turn on, what I did was I went to advanced, and then I'm going to turn on oscillator C, okay? And right now it's on additive, but I can change import audio, okay? And what this allows me to do then is to drag and drop here. So I can grab now an audio file. Let's do diesel train and drop it on this window, okay? And then say import. So you can see it's loading this recording of a diesel train. Oh, I hope it's not too long. I think there's a limit to how long an audio file can be. Oh, there it is, diesel train. So if I solo this now, when I play the keyboard, it's going to play the diesel train, right? So this is now part of my sound, and I could do anything I wanted to with it. I could transpose it up and play it with the synth. Okay, so it's now part of the synthesizer is this noise generator on the oscillator C. I can also do really cool stuff because obviously I can go in here now and do some modulation with it if I wanted to. I could turn a filter on, turn the resonator up. Let's turn this down. I'm going to map the, sorry, not the resonator, the cutoff frequency to an LFO. Let's do this. and then put some depth in here. And now listen to this. Oh, it's going way too fast. So let's turn the sync on here. Turn this up to 1 bar. Oh, why is that not working? Rate. Oh, I'm going slow. That's what I'm doing. So there's a really cool oscillation happening here and there. Hear it? I don't know why. Yeah. It's funky. I'm not sure why my rate is so long, having to be so long. But anyways, you get the idea. It's basically working to emulate that or do something with the oscillation, okay? So that is one way you can do this, is just literally by going in here and dragging and dropping a oscillate or a noise source as one of the sources for your effect or for your sample. Another way is to, if I go to C here, oh wait, yeah, over here I can click, no, what am I doing? Where is it? Oh, A and B, yeah. Because C is an audio file, it lost those options. So let's actually just go to D. No, it's D is something else too. Let's just go to B and use this one. So B is creating a sound right now. If I solo this, I think that's the solo button. You can hear the sound that oscillator B is making. But I can also now turn on the noise generator, okay? And I can choose white noise. You can recognize these names. So some of these came from that recording or this is where those recordings came from. So if I choose fire, for instance, let me solo this again. The low cut. So this oscillator is really quiet. It's really turned way down. Let me turn it up. But hear the noise in there now. Let me turn the noise off. Okay. So this is one way of using noise as well, right? And I can also do something like this. I can also add modulation to this. So let's go to tune 16. Let's see what that does. Okay, hear how it's oscillating the pitch. You can hear that actually back and forth. These notes are really low. Let me go up an octave or two. So you can hear the noise though has been added to the sound, right? There's like this granular or this kind of the fire, and I think it's partly this high cut. Oh wow, I don't know why it's so low, but you get the idea of how it works. Anyway, so this is the other kind of one of the other ways of doing this. You can also actually just go straight to noise from here. So let me preset this, initialize the preset. I can start with one. I can go to A, which is the only one working now. These are all off. And I'm actually going to turn on the noise. And I can also turn off the oscillator. Okay, so if I hit this oscillator button here, now all I'm going to hear is the noise. Okay, so if I wanted to use this only, right, I could use just the noise from the ocean here. It's really high sound, really loud and very intense. Let's do vinyl, right? So you can see now that I can use just the oscillator only for noise. Then I could go to B, maybe turn B on, choose something else. And now you can see that the noise is part of the mix, right? So it's a really cool effect and really useful. This is another thing about synthesizers that can be really interesting, is that it's common for synths to have noise sources inside them just to create more intensity, okay? Let me duplicate this track. And I'm going to use actually ES2 here, okay? ES2's. So And let's just go to recall the default here, which is a very simple sound. So what I can do now is, because this is short, or it is short, it's based on how long I hold the note down. But you can hear now I have noise mixed in with this sound. The mixer will allow me to give a little less of that noise. But there's kind of an edginess to this sound now because of the noise that's added to the mix, right? There's that sound without it, and here's with the added noise. Right? So it's a really cool effect, and it sharpens the edge of that sound. If I also go here, I can turn this up an octave, and then let's hear it. Oh, it's actually not affecting it. I thought it would change the sound, but I guess the noise is fixed, basically. So it doesn't affect it, but you do hear how edginess this adds to the sound, right? By putting some noise in the mix. Okay. Anyways, so that is my basic tutorial on using noise. You know, this can just be, you know, another thing to use. I use it often is kind of traffic noise or the sound of one of the things that I have in my BBC sound effects library is like these street markets, and so there's like voices in the background, and it's kind of a beautiful sound to mix in and use. So you can try something like that too. It adds a lot of like spice to your sound and can really help kind of to make things sound more organic, as I've said. Okay. All right, I'll post this video today, and we will start next Thursday with our final presentations in class, right? So I'll see you then and talk to you soon.